Fun fact, in some cultures, the eggplant emoji is a euphemism for a dick, and by some cultures, I mean human. Today I'm going to do eggplants two ways, and I'm going to do them both at the same time so you can see how easy it is. One way will be stir fry and the other will be a roast eggplant dip. Now there are multiple ways to cut an eggplant, and each way has a different strength in terms of the best way to cook it. These first two methods is best if you plan on battering and frying your eggplant. So if you're going to do some kind of like cornstarch or potato starch batter and then deep fry the eggplant and then stir fry it later, rings and half moons are the way to go. This is simply because you're maximizing the surface area in which the batter that it will be fried can adhere to as much eggplant as you can, and that way you get the most crispy, crunchy goodness for your buck. Also, the smaller pieces are just easier to manage when dealing with battering and frying something. If you were just going to stir fry the eggplant straight, maybe with a little bit of cornstarch, like a small dusting of cornstarch, I would prefer to do it in these sticks. These longer sticks are just more substantial once they're cooked, and that way it's just heartier and a bit more meaty. Now for the purposes of roasting them, rings and moons are great because they cook a lot of eggplant very evenly. We're going to process these into a dip later on, so the shape of them doesn't really matter. Whatever gets you there, gets you there. And for the seasonings, I kept it pretty simple, just some salt, pepper, cumin, topping it off with some oil. And one great thing about making dips is that you can use pretty much anything you want to flavor it aromatics wise. Here, I'm just using everything that is going bad in my fridge. A couple of old cloves of garlic, no problem. Some wilty scallions, no problem. Some garlic scapes that I literally forgot about and have been sitting in the back of my shelf. Yes, put some oil on it, dust it with some white pepper, and let it all roast together in the oven. That is the beauty of eggplant, and that's the beauty of eggplant dip. It's a neutral flavor and it takes on whatever you put into it. Obviously, I don't want to call it baba ganoush because that is a set recipe. Absolutely delicious, one of my favorite things to eat ever, and it's actually really healthy too. If you get your baba ganoush and they don't use too much tahini, not only is it so good for you, but it's absolutely delicious and satisfying too. Before stir frying my eggplant, I like to give it a little coating in cornstarch, a little bit of textural variety to the dish, and if you have potato starch, I bet it would work even better. Using garlic scapes again because they were on their way out and I don't like wasting food. The trick to using garlic scapes, if you're going to stir fry them, is to make sure that you take off the ends that are woody and tough. Otherwise, you'll just have garlic scapes that are just stringy and not very pleasant to eat. The tender ones, when they are stir-fried, kind of eat like string beans and are delightful when they're stir-fried. That was just like eating just some raw garlic. I don't recommend you do that if you don't like garlic. When preparing ginger for a stir fry, there are a couple of ways that you can cut it. You can do matchsticks, that's fine. You can do a small mince or a dice, that's fine too. It really all just depends how much you like the flavor of ginger and whether or not it is really offensive for you to bite into a large piece of ginger as you're eating your stir fry. It all just depends. I think this is called a brunoise. I don't know the Western names for things, which is funny because I don't know the Chinese way of calling things either. Tiny pieces. You can cut them into tiny pieces, that is great, but this way is also great. If you just like smash, oh well, that fell off the table. Okay, gently smash. Respectfully smash, some might say. However you prefer to smash your ginger, just do so and then do like a fine chop. I think this is the faster way and easier way to do it. If you're just doing some home cooking, that is perfectly fine. You don't need uniform tiny dice pieces. To get your wok uniformly non-stick, all you really need to do is just make sure that, first of all, your wok is really hot and dry before you even put any oil on it. And then you put some oil on it and you'll notice that it'll smoke a lot. That's your first kind of like layering of oil. You're not cooking with this, do not cook with this, and then dump it out. You can reuse that oil to season your pan again if you want to, but you see I gave it a wipe and that's the oil that you cook with. And that is how you guarantee a non-stick wok. I tell you what, I'm in the process of writing a book, and writing and explaining how to stir fry food is so much more difficult than to just show it. In general, stir frying is more about timing and more about feeling and understanding like what's going on in front of you, and I don't know why I did not remove the scapes and the ginger from that. I definitely should have done that before adding in and like redoing the eggplant. Do that. Don't do what I just did. But yeah, anyways, I consider thinking it in terms of layering rather than steps as the better way to illustrate a stir fry. Because you're consistently building on top of this one unified dish as opposed to doing one thing after another. So basically you start off with your oil, you flavor the oil with either ginger or garlic, and then you add the things that you want to cook in there. Sometimes you might remove the things, as I should have done in this recipe, so that those things stop cooking, and then you can like more evenly cook everything else, and then once everything comes together they can all finish cooking at the same time. The sauce that I made for this was pretty simple: light soy sauce, dark soy sauce, a little bit of sugar, and some Chinese cooking wine. If you want to make it spicy, you can always add some chili oil. That is always splendid on any kind of stir-fried eggplant. As with any stir-fry recipe, 90% of the time you spend making this is done in prep, and it's only a few minutes of actually stir-frying it itself. 30 to 45 minutes at, I'm gonna guess, 375 degrees, the eggplants are done. I'm just putting it all into a food processor and combining it with some salt and Greek non-fat yogurt. If you wanted to go more the route of baba ganoush, you could totally use more tahine if you wanted, but in this way I wanted just to focus on
that's also delicious.
Being more controlling on my sources of fat versus making sure that there was adequate protein in there. Greek yogurt's got a lot of protein. Just these little ingredient hacks that I picked up from my bodybuilder friends to maximize flavor while also still, like, you know, maximizing the nutritional value of the things that you make. I forgot to add more cumin. You should always add more cumin. Some things I ate this with, if I wanted to be like extra careful about like what my intake for food was that day, kind of like balancing off some fried chicken or some pasta that I might have had the day before, I would eat this with cucumbers. But if you're the type of person that likes to eat yogurt with your rice, I personally love it. This is kind of fun to eat in that same way because the eggplants give this like earthy flavor to it. You've got some spices in there, and then the yogurt itself is still like gives that nice tang to it. So if you enjoy yogurt and rice, you'd enjoy this as well, I think. All in all, I'd say both of these dishes together took me less than an hour to prepare, including the roasting time. Both of these would actually, in my opinion, work with a rice, but otherwise, yeah, I just wanted to make a video that like showed off more than one way that you can like make eggplant. And honestly, I don't make eggplant dip enough. There's always eggplant at the grocery store, and yeah, it's so easy and not a lot of work. And if you're doing some kind of charcuterie board or a bunch of crudité, which is just charcuterie with no meat, that's all crudité is. But yeah, that's so good. It's so tasty. At Costco, you could get pretty much dehydrated ranch powder, and all you'd have to do is like add buttermilk to it. The ranch powder actually has no calories. It's just herbs and spices and like I think powdered yogurt or something that makes it tangy. I think that might be good with this. Is that too Midwestern and chaotic? Should I do it? I should do it.